Hello again, welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur Tips. So the previous episode was about early stage valuation, and this episode is about new business versus a startup and what's the difference. And this is an important topic because a lot of people seem to confuse the two terms, both those starting making their own startup and people on the outside, and there's quite a big difference between the two. Generally, both are new businesses, but a startup is a specific type of business. Generally, when we refer to a startup, we mean a new business done in a specific way. And with the sense of the model of the startup became widespread in 2000 with the burst of the dot-com bubble in the US. And basically a startup is a new business that brings new products to new markets and is in search of a business model. It doesn't have a fixed model like a conventional business. It's typically a software business, an online software business, but not always. And generally it's very agile, which means it constantly seeks for feedback from customers. It does a lot of experiments and tries to improve the products and service according to feedback based on the results of those experiments. I've had experience trying to work with other people in the past who still thought of the old conventional model, like in one of my previous startups. Okay, I did it with one of my best friends, Panos, and this is how it worked. He was a very technical person, and he found a watering system that he liked, and he got the designs for it at home. He built a whole lab to build it. He built his own CNC machine. He got AutoCAD to design it. He got all the materials, and he made a prototype. Okay, and then when we met, and he said, okay, basically I've made this prototype, and how can you sell it? And basically this is exactly, this is the conventional thinking about doing a business, which kind of is expected from a tech person, from a techie, because okay, techies is better if they're good at the tech stuff, but they don't really know the business. But it's important that if you do a business with someone and they have this kind of thinking, that you have to really get them around to understand exactly how a startup works. Okay, and to give you an example of why another example of how startups fail. I mean, I come from Greece, so in Greece, I would say new businesses don't really grow very much. But I can take an example of how many people think of doing a business. Okay, doing a new business. So typically, it won't be like a software business or something like that. It might be just a local shop, which is still a business. So they have, say, 20,000 euros saved. So they think, okay, what will I do? Okay, I'll do a shop. I'll find somewhere where there's a neighborhood I can rent something, and then they build up the place. They paint it. They get all the equipment they need, and make a shop. And so they do all this investment, and then a few months later they find that it turns out that they didn't have enough customers, and they shut down and they lose their money. Okay, and there's bigger. I mean, it's not Greece. This is the problem of doing a conventional startup or a conventional business. The risks are already known from the US. I mean, the popular example is the Kodak Photo CD. If you remember this one, it was out in 1992 by Kodak, and it's basically a CD that can store photos, and it claimed to have special compression methods to improve the quality of the picture and so on. And Kodak followed again the conventional method of doing business, which is pretty much a waterfall approach. So basically you get a capital, you get a team of designers, and then you get the product designers. They design the product. You get the engineers to build it. You test the product, you document it, and then they fill up the warehouse with lots of items, and then they call the marketing team and they go, now sell it. Okay, and that's roughly what Kodak did. They had a good product. It turned out it wasn't good enough. They expected to make $600 million in sales, and then eventually they went. They lost over $100 million or so dollars. So it's not a good way of doing business. And there's more reasons why. There's more reasons why this is conventional model is problematic. I mean, originally the idea of a startup was in the it started from the US. And the main reason is that in the US there's some companies, some giants, for example, okay, Google is one of them, which you just can't beat. Okay, it's just not possible to have a product that they've already made and you make the same product. So if, say, you go to make a search engine, it's highly likely you fail because they've just already dominated the whole area. So there's no point. So that's why you have to find a new product. A second reason is because obviously the conventional approach of doing a business, following that waterfall method, requires a lot of capital in hand, you know, to get the offices, to get the people, to hire the people, to get the equipment, to design the product. It requires a big amount of capital in advance, and many people don't have it. Now the third reason, this problem is even worse when there's a financial crisis. People cannot raise so much capital anyway. And now the third reason is that today times change very fast. So it's also possible, let's say you find the capital and you build a product, and by the time you've finished and the product's ready and it's sitting in the warehouse, a competitor has already made another product and they basically overtaking you, and nobody buys your product and you have big losses. Or sometimes it might just happen that the whole market changes and there's reasons why they don't want to buy your product anymore that you've invested so much money in. And that's exactly why you do a startup, which starts in a much more agile way. So you come up with the idea, and then you make a minimum viable product, as it's called, which is your first prototype. You make a business plan, you examine the market, you make a big user base, you get a lot of feedback from users until you reach a point where you know you've got a product that is going to sell. There is no other in the market, and it's unique, and you build your user base. I mean, there's a lot more around it, but that's generally the idea. So when we speak of a startup, we're talking about, as I said, a new company that sells new products in new markets. It's in search of a business model, and is generally very agile. And typically a startup might, the other difference is it might live for many years even without having any revenue at all. Well, that's very possible. We've seen startups do that. For example, the social network Quora does that. They began in 2011, and until about 2016-17 they hadn't monetized at all. They literally survived off investor money, and then they eventually discovered what's the best way to monetize. Would it be, I don't know, ads? Would it be selling content like user data, big data, something like that? And then eventually they started making money. So that's very possible, which is against conventional businesses that usually expect to, you know, make revenue from the beginning. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon with more.